Hello everyone and good morning. Welcome to the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, and it is Monday and we are going to be going over John Maxwell's Winning with People. So before we get started, we want to tag a few people in this, so if you just give us 1 second. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Get to enjoy this beautiful weather right now. It's so nice. We don't get too many days like this in Indiana, so enjoy it while it lasts. Alrighty. There we go. Alright, so we're going to get started. So we are on the investment question. Whoop, what are you doing? Oh, there we go. So we are on the investment question. So are we willing to invest in others? So no man can live happily who regards himself alone, who turns everything to his own advantage, and you must live for others if you wish to live for yourself. So why would you want to take the time and energy to invest in others? Well, you can invest in things and your career, but the one thing that's going to last forever is really the people, because once you affect one person, that's going to trickle into every other aspect of their life, and then they're going to be able to take it to somebody else. So that's one of the reasons of why you want to work with people. So, and there's 5 principles that John says that for investing in people. Number 1 is the garden principle, the 101% principle, the patience principle, the celebration principle, and the high road principle. So today we're going to start off with the garden principle. So all relationships need cultivation. So friendship is like money, easier made than it is kept. So ask yourself this question: do I occasionally or continually cultivate my relationship? So how does your garden grow? You can neglect you can't neglect a relationship and expect it to grow, and not all relationships need the same amount of time, but the nature and purpose of the relationship will determine the time and energy that is needed to be able to cultivate it. So every relationship is different, but it can fit into one of these 3 categories. Number 1, some people come into our lives for a reason. So like you need to go see a chiropractor, your back's out of whack, you go to the chiropractor, and you then have that relationship with that person. Now you only see that person maybe every once in a while, but we actually have a nice relationship with our chiropractor, and we talk every time we go to see him, but it's an occasional thing. Like, we don't talk to him all the time, but it's just when we go see him, but it is a friendship that we have with him, and that's an example of one of those relationships. Number 2, some people come into our lives for a season. So this is related to our circumstances and situations, but just because it's a temporary relationship doesn't mean that it's not important. Number 3, some people come into our lives for a lifetime. So it's ongoing, it's permanent, and you want to encourage this relationship and do what you need to do to make sure that you're still paying attention to this person. So the most important relationship anybody has is also with their spouse, because this is the person that you made a vow to spend the rest of your life with, or at least most people do. So selecting the right man or woman to marry is important, but it's also part of the process of developing a good marriage. So marriage is like a long-term relation, like any other long-term relationship, requires these things. You want to wade through a few things that are difficult, work for many things. What are you doing? Oh,
I'm reading.
I thought you were pointing at something for me. Anywho, you want to work for many things that are needed, wait on some things that take time, and watch out for things that can be harmful, and wave goodbye to personal things or that are selfish. So marriage partners who intentionally cultivate a close relationship will so if you don't spend time with your partner and really work on the relationship, eventually you're going to drift apart. And this happens with a lot of relationships. As many of you know, I moved from Wisconsin down to Indianapolis, and I had a lot of friends up there. But there are really two people I had to put a lot of energy into. They were my best friends. I've known them since we were kids. And I'm like, I really don't want this, even though we're going separate directions, I really want to keep this relationship going. So every once in a while, it's just reaching out like, hey, how are you? Just wanted to know I'm thinking about you. How's the family? How's your sister? And just reaching out to these people, making it an effort. And John talks about later in this chapter of how you want to, different ways to actually reach out if you feel like you've neglected a person for a while, and actually come out and say it. Be like, hey, you know what? I was thinking about you the other day, and I just wanted to reach out. I feel like I've been neglecting you a little bit. I just wanted to reach out and see how you're doing. That means more to people than anything else. And especially if you haven't been spending a lot of time with them. So that's the thing that you could do to be able to take that first step to then open things back up. So ways to keep cultivating important relationships. So what does it mean to cultivate a relationship, whether it's with your spouse, parent, or in a friendship? Number one is communication. This is really bad for a lot of people. We always hear it, but a lot of people are missing this. And every long-lasting relationship suffers the strains and setbacks, but even in the best relationships, you can expect some conflict. And are you more dedicated to maintain the relationship or avoid the conflict? So, never mind. Second one was communication. First one is commitment. My bad. I'm getting ahead of myself here. So anywho, that's for the second one. But for the first one is commitment. Are you committed to making sure that this relationship is going to last? Like with the friendships that I've had, I'm like, you know what? We've had our differences before. Like me and my best friend, we've gotten into some pretty nasty spats. But I'm like, you know what? This argument's not worth our friendship over. So let's talk this out. Figure out how we're going to be able to get over this. Or get to a point where we agree to disagree and then just move on and never bring it up again. The second one's communication. The third is friendship. So, critic Simon Johnson remarked, if a man does not make a new acquaintance as he advances through life, he will soon find himself alone. A man should keep his friendship in constant repair. So always doing like little tidbits here and there to reach out and make sure that these people feel loved. Even in, this is with your friendships, your family, and even your partner, because the more you neglect, the more they're going to pull back. And you want to make sure that this is something that people are reaching out to. A great way to know how to do this with people, depending on their personality type, we give love based on how we feel love. So a good book to read is The 5 Love Languages. It's a really good starter book for a lot of people, because then you're able to figure these things out based on what people talk about. And then you're able to do that at a much higher level. Number 4, memories. It helps you to reconnect almost instantly in memories that you share your experiences with people. So every time I go back home and visit with different people I went to high school with, I may not have seen them for years. And I'll run into them, and we always bring up something from school. It's like, oh my gosh, whatever happened to this person? This person was the funniest. Did you remember that time? And it instantly sets off a reconnection with that person that you may not have felt for a while. Growth. You have to find ways to keep it fresh and strong, and so that you can continue to have the potential and not just good memories and on the way. You want to find somebody who's going to grow with you. Now, not everybody is going to be on the same path, but still growing is still good. Number 6, spoil each other. One of our girls at the studio, who we've become very good friends with, we just hired her on about a month ago, is very good at this. She loves to cook, and we've been to her house twice for dinner, and she's very good at doing this because she's been baking and bringing us treats. And this is where knowing the 5 love languages kind of comes into play, because you can use it not only with a spouse but also in your friendships. So the best way to my heart is through food. And she does. She brings us lots of treats, and it's a way of feeling loved, and she's a giver. So finding ways to spoil your friends and family of like, look, this is something that I found and I thought of you, or hey, this is some audio program that I think you would really like. I thought I would like to share it with you. So the garden principle discussion questions. Name some ways in which people in relationships can positively communicate with one another. That really has a lot more to do, to me, with how a lot of times when people don't communicate very well, it's because it's a self-conscious issue. And people have a hard time with this because they haven't ever seen a lot of people in their relationships who do communicate correctly, and just being aware of yourself of how do you need to bring this to this person, and learning the personality types, because depending on your personality, you could bring an issue to somebody, but wording it in the wrong way will make them react not in a way that you were expecting. And I'm probably going to skip the other questions, but that's basically what I got from this chapter. Jeff, do you have any comments of what you got out of this?
No.
No?
Well, I'm going to go with the rest of the questions. It says, how do some of your most significant long-term relationships start? A lot of times they start by accident. It's not necessarily that I've always found, especially like significant other, it's not necessarily that you're looking for somebody. It's when you say, I'm not looking for anybody. I'm not looking for anybody. I don't want to find anybody. I just want to do what I'm doing. And then that's when you'll end up running into somebody and it's of interest. It's kind of when, like she talked about self-confidence, when you're calm and that's when it shows up. 3, how do you determine with whom you spend your time? This is where people get screwed up. Most people spend their time with people who tolerate them, not necessarily people who kind of advance them, make them grow. What Jim Rohn, what John Maxwell, what Charlie Tremendous Jones, what Les Brown, I mean, I can go on and on. They all kind of say the same thing. Even Think and Grow Rich, written over 100 years ago, they said the people you spend the most time with will have the most influence on you, and therefore have a direct impact on your income, have a direct impact on how you treat people, have a direct impact on the lifestyle you live. So it really, really makes a difference in who you spend the most time with. And we tend to forget this because we're either going to spend time with people who tolerate us or people who suck up to us and make us feel good, but we're not really evaluating these people based on where they're going. And that's unfortunate because most people are not taught this. 4, why do relationships allow difficult issues to remain unresolved in important relationships? I mean, again, it's fear of loss of the relationship. So your basic human instinct is built to basically keep everything the same. And the reason it's built to keep everything the same is like, if you've lived this long, then you know your surroundings, no matter how much BS you have to put up with, what kind of drama, what kind of turmoil, what kind of abuse you put up with, you know that arena. And people will stay. And we've all heard about people staying in abusive relationships. We've all heard of people being abused for years and they stay, and you're like, why would you stay? It's your basic human instinct, or their basic human instinct, that kicked in that says, I know what this is. And the outside, the unknown, is more scary than the abuse. That's psychology, like what happens. And, no, it's not okay. No, it's not all right. And yes, the person does need it, but the person has to get to the point where they're ready to go. 5, when was the last time you spoiled someone? So the idea is to do the things, to do the extra things. And I really learned this through John Maxwell. This was not something I was taught growing up. But I've learned to do things like when we're going somewhere, to be able to stop and think. And to be able to stop and think about others, or stop and think for others, you have to A, be okay with yourself, and B, it kind of takes a unselfish thought to be able to figure out what would be best for someone else. And that's not normal, and that's not usual. That's definitely not something that's taught nowadays, but needs to be. And that's how you're able to positively affect others much, much faster, and connect with people much, much faster, and influence people much, much faster than just going about everyday life. And people have asked, like, well, how do you build these relationships? Why does everybody know you everywhere you go? Because we go out of our way to look for ways to help people, ways to, exactly what they're talking about, ways to spoil people, if you want to call that. And I'll give just one example. So we have made friends with the owners of a Vietnamese restaurant locally. Probably, year and a half, maybe 2?
Oh, since we've been going there? 2 years.
Okay, so 2 years we've been going to this place. Now, I'll promote it because it's Chow Vietnamese street food. That's here on 96th Street in Indianapolis. Actually, it's on the north side, so it's technically in Fishers. We've been going there. Found out Carlos is from Colombia, and his significant other is from Vietnam. He was a chef, and that's how they chose Vietnamese food. He's like, there really isn't a Vietnamese food here in town, at least the north side. So great idea, great food. We started going there, and we found out about him, and come to find out, he went to school in Wisconsin. So he knew all about Wisconsin cheese and Wisconsin beers and different things.
He knew where I lived, which is very rare.
So we just kept talking to him and figuring out different stuff. Well, anyway, when Brandy put together her truffles, we brought some in. And then, it just kind of slowly built over time. When the COVID virus hit, we made a point to keep going there and stopping by, checking in, seeing how people are doing. We have friends that work there, so we kept stopping in and said, hey, we'll be back at least once a week. We're always come in once a week. We were coming in more than once a week before that, but we at least came back at least once a week. In the beginning, we were there, it seemed like every other day. It was the only place that was open. He's like, they did all the things that they were supposed to do, and curbside delivery, and we started promoting them and helping them, and we would also tip them I would say, not too crazy excessive, but probably better than most. And we know that it was better than most because when we pull up, people would be like, oh, they're here. Then they started, Carlos has gone out of his way to, anytime we go there, it seems like we're getting something extra, whether it's a drink or a coffee, iced coffee. Oh my gosh, the Vietnamese iced coffee is amazing. Not that this coffee isn't good, but the iced coffee is really cool. Probably not good for you, right? It's got milk and all kinds of other stuff in it, but calories. But it's wonderful, and he would give it to us for free. Why do you think we got it for free? Was it because we drove a black car, and an SUV? No. Was it because and I spoke Spanish at them one time? That's not the reason. The reason is just over time, and you kind of look at every relationship. Every relationship starts with a seed. The problem is that the relationship starts with a seed the first time you meet somebody, but most people don't know how to water, don't know how to cultivate, don't know how to grow. Most people want to go from, here's a seed, all the way to, hey, where's the fruit? Meaning, what can I get from this person? That's how people treat people. And I see it all the time in business. I meet you. oh, you have something I want. What can I get from you? And the very next thing coming out of their mouth in the same conversation is go from, hey, to all of a sudden, buy my stuff, come over, get this, I want this. And, you know, some of us have personalities that are like right now, right now, right now. And they don't know how to cultivate over time. They don't know it's going to take a while. Like the team we have right now is absolutely phenomenal, growing all over the place. But it took a while to do. Like the patience of just doing the deal, doing what you're supposed to be doing, cultivating relationships, checking in with people, staying in touch with people. Like that's how you build a really, really big team. Really big team that stays around. I have friends that have built teams much faster, but the teams are gone. You know why the teams are gone? Because they had no staying power in what they were doing. There were no relationships built. Nobody knew who anybody was. It was just a bunch of numbers on a screen. And they were like, look at my team. Now that team is gone. And now they're having to build a whole new team. I wanted to do this once where you could build enough relationships where people would show up in the middle of the night if the car broke down in the middle of nowhere, or show up in the middle of the night if somebody needed something, or help out, you know, across the state. You know, we have people now that I'm friends with, you know, not on our team and not on our team, that, you know, Brandy and I, if they needed something, we'd get in the car and go, you know, whether that's Wisconsin, Colorado, Florida, you know, Carolina, we just go. We go to help them. Kansas, you know, we got people all over the place. Eventually, the goal would be to have people all over the world. You know, we have people in Canada who, if they needed our help, you know, we'd get the passport and go. That's what it's really about. So that's what we got for today. Relationship 101, John Maxwell's book, Relationship 101, or Get Real, REAL. He's got all this listed out, what to do, how to do.
All right, cool. So if you guys would like the notes, we're taking notes on each chapter and sending them out to our database. So if you guys would like to subscribe to that so you can have them, I will put the link in the comments below. Also, if you guys would like to go follow us on YouTube, each of these videos are going to be downloaded to there. So you can search MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show and it'll be right there. So with that, that is what we have for you today, and we will see you guys tomorrow.